Hey, there, it's me, Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment, thanks. Signs were sprouting up like flowers around Fort Russell High, all of them touting the glories of the senior prom. Just a year ago, as juniors, Sarah Beth and I worked hard to help organize the big dance. We had dreamed about coming and dancing as seniors, even though on the whole we weren't social animals. We were, after all, celebrating the end of our high school career and looking forward to staying a couple of forever. Now we were seniors, and the juniors were working for us, making plans to decorate the country club. But now Sarah had only one leg. As we stood in the hallway, Sarah leaning on her cane, I said, "You're not taking anyone else to senior prom, are you?" "No," she said wistfully. "No one else." "Were you asking?" "Sure, I was asking." "Will you come to the prom with me?" We hadn't been to any dances since her illness. We missed the fall fiesta and homecoming dance because she was sick with chemo. The other smaller dances, held in the school cafeteria, we ignored. But this was prom. "Is it worth spending the money?" she asked. "I'm not even as good a dancer as you are anymore." As choreographically challenged as I had always been, she was probably right. "So, we can improvise on the dancing. I just want to be there with you in my arms. We can at least sway during the slow dances, just so we can hold each other close. Please come." I sloppily tried a kneeling motion and almost knocked her over. "Besides, you're my fiancé, kid." "Okay, then. Prince Charming, I'd love to go the ball with you. But I'm not sure I can find a glass slipper to fit this foot." "That's okay, as long as you don't mind that the carriage is my Jeep. The limos are already rented out, I hear. Besides, I couldn't afford one, anyway. But I am glad that you want to go." So I stopped at the booth to buy tickets from two eager juniors. That Saturday, Sarah's mom took her shopping for a prom dress, and they met me at the tux rental place so we could coordinate our attire, and go from there to lunch together. Sarah's dress looked great in the bag, but I had trouble finding a tux in my size that went well with it, or with anything else, for that matter. All the good ones were reserved. Finally, we picked the least bad of the lot. On the way to lunch, Sarah grinned. "Too bad it isn't Annie that's going to the prom. She could wear that gorgeous blue gown from her date with Roger, and make all the girls jealous." She paused. "Actually, it does seem a change that Annie will miss out on going to a dance. My date with Roger had been a formal dinner date. Probably not the safest thing to do, though," I chuckled. "Some of these guys will have gun racks on their limos. No, Annie will just have to miss this dance. Besides, doesn't Julie still have the gown at college?" Sarah's mom admitted that Julie did still have the gown, and that she had actually worn it once to a college dance. She also told me that Julie was home for the weekend. As we munched our burgers, Sarah mumbled something softly. I asked her to repeat it. "Maybe we shouldn't go." I asked her why. "Except for bobbing my head back and forth, I haven't moved to music since last summer. I'm really going to feel like a geek, limping around the dance floor." "You two lovebirds could practice beforehand," Mrs. Holding advised. "Without a crowd around, put on some music and become comfortable with it. The prom's in a week. Come over tonight, if you want." We had planned on a movie, but we could always put that off. Sarah and I agreed. "Come over about 6 for supper, and we'll go from there. We'll move the therapy equipment to the side in the basement, turn the dimmers down, and boogie. It'll just be the Holding girls and you, Mark." Mr. H was trucking a load down in West Texas. I cringed when I saw the gleam in Sarah's eye. "Can Annie come?" "Tonight, I mean?" That way, she could have her own prom. Mrs. H pressed her lips together. That would be up to Mark, Sarah. Don't put him in a difficult situation. I wasn't sure how to react. I hadn't gotten to dress as Annie since our last trip over the mountains. Let me think about it. Let's just see how it goes, okay? They agreed. So I showed up for supper in my khaki slacks and a Henley shirt, but I had a sport jacket and a Sunday shirt on hangers over my shoulder and an inexpensive wrist corsage in a plastic box. I had picked it up when I ordered the real corsage for next Saturday. Sarah kissed my cheek and put the corsage in the refrigerator until after supper. As her mom took my jacket and shirt, Sarah said, "You won't be needing those, unless you're planning to spend the night and go to church from here tomorrow." Her mom protested with a vigorous head shake. Soon, we were all chowing down, except for Julie, who was having supper with Joan Kim from the nail shop. Mrs. H had found time to put together a nice meal, in spite of the day's shopping. We all pitched in to help clean up the table and throw the dishes in the washer. It's getting late. We'd better get Annie ready for her prom, Sarah told her mom, casting a teasing glance at me. If you want me to be Annie tonight, I will, I said. But why do you want me to be? Because I miss her every once in a while, she said. And because you're always so stiff at dancing, that maybe being Annie tonight will loosen you up a bit. That way, we can both be more relaxed on the real dance floor. And Annie shouldn't have to grow up without having gone to a prom. As we left her mom in the kitchen, she whispered, "Besides, I always find you sexy as Mark. But I'm beginning to find Annie a little bit sexy to me, too." "Lead on, then," I said in my Annie voice. I had though we would have to go upstairs to Julie's room, where most of Annie's clothes were stored, but Sarah and Julie had already brought what I needed down to her room. Unfortunately, her room didn't have much privacy, since it only had a curtain for a door. Sarah gave me my padded panties, bra, and a pair of pantyhose and told me to go change in the downstairs bathroom. I stripped and put on the lingerie. I padded back, wearing my Annie undies. My heart jumped and I started to dash across the living room to Sarah's room. With the slick pantyhose, my feet went out from under me on the polished hardwood floor, and my slide was so good that I would have been safe at third, had the coffee table been third base. It was only Julie, carrying a baby in her arms. "Hi, Annie," she just said calmly, as if I always slid around their living room in lingerie. "This is Tina Kim, Joan's daughter. She was in her mommy's tummy when she gave you your blue nails." The infant gave me a toothless grin as Julie waved its tiny hand at me. "Tina, this is your Aunt Annie. She's kind of silly, but we love her very much." By that time, Sarah had come out, and eagerly took the baby. Someday all those motherhood instincts will be used on our kids, I thought, as I rose up from the floor. Mrs. Holding had come up from the basement at the loud thump, so I was now surrounded by laughing women. "Joan couldn't get time away from the shop for supper," Julie explained after the laughing had died down, and the shop was so crowded, all of Tina's natural babysitters were busy nailing the general population of Fort Russell. All the women in the Kim family were nail technicians at their own store, Nail Fancy, except for Tina, who was sitting in my lap by this time. Her nails weren't much larger than pinheads. So they ordered an Oriental, and I volunteered to take Tina for the evening. She wanted to dance at the prom, too. Tina watched raptly as the Holding sisters prepared to transform me into a prom queen. First came the dress. When I first entered Sarah's room, I thought it was her prom gown hanging from a hook, but I realized it was much too long for Sarah. Sarah, under 5 feet 2 inches, is almost as much shorter than Julie and I as we are shorter than Karen, Julie's roommate at college. The dress was a delicate peach color, sleeveless, low-waisted and slightly flared, with a subtle brocade around the high neck. As I found out when they lifted it over me, the back was open to mid-back. Julie pulled down the bra strap so it wouldn't show, leaning me backwards. It was classy. This was my senior prom dress, Annie, Julie commented. So we figured it would fit. That color looks good on you. I have dark enough a tan that I didn't know if it would or not, but as it worked out the contrast was nice. Here, why don't you do your nails, and I'll help Sarah change and then come back to do your makeup, Julie suggested. That's okay, I can do my own, I offered. Julie was already helping Sarah out of her slacks and lavender tank top. You do great for daytime makeup, Annie, Julie answered, but for prom you need something more dramatic, yet not overdone. We'll handle it. Okay, I muttered. I started to paint my nails the silvery blue color they had given me. 7-month-old Tina watched with fascination from my lap, where Julie had dropped her, with a baby blanket between the kid and my fancy dress. The painting process was slowed by my glancing at the mirror to watch my fiancé change clothes. Her body was so beautiful to me, even with the bulk of the harness for her full-leg prosthesis. Sarah's new gown, as Julie fitted over her, was a pale blue, classy and understated, but showing her curves off to good advantage. Wow, was all I could say. We're just getting started with both of you, Julie said. Let's you, me, and Tina go up to my room so Sarah Boo can have her vanity back. With that, she swept the little one out of my lap, and we processed upwards. After applying base makeup and color to my cheeks, Julie began to work on my eyes, first with an eyebrow pencil, then with several colors of eyeshadow. She artistically blended grays, silver, and peach together, which helped unify the colors of my nails and my gown. She added some tiny spots of glitter to my cheeks and neck, and handed me a peach lipstick. Now, downstairs for the fine-tuning, she said. I loyally marched after her. They had given me footies to wear, to keep my pantyhose from running, and to help keep me from sliding again. I still walked very carefully. Please subscribe for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.